I'll let you talk to the fine folks while I send an email here.
All right, folks. Are we live again? We're live?
We're live again.
Okay. We're having some technical difficulties. Apologize if you can stay with us. We just, Greg and Luke talked and they set the link up before we went live and everything was working really fine. The audio was fine. And like we said earlier, we haven't been having this problem it's been a long, long time. All the guests, everything's been fine. So this is kind of a surprise to us. But he's going to try to get on his phone, put his earbuds in his phone, and we're going to get him pulled up here in a little bit. That's kind of the plan. So appreciate you guys sticking with us. Do apologize.
We'll get it going.
It just happens. It's 2020.
Yeah, we're getting everybody come back in now.
Yeah, we really apologize for this. So Luke's going to be a good guest though if we can get him up on here. He's got a lot of tournament experience, and I want to talk to somebody from around here that's want to get their opinions on how some of these lakes compare to the other lakes that they've been to.
It's hard to compare when you got the best lakes in.
We got some good lakes around here.
I was going to say we got
Southern Illinois really got some good lakes. We just don't have any really big lakes. That's the downside.
Yeah, we don't. I mean, unless you're going to drive 3.5 hours to Lake of the Ozarks or Kentucky Lakes. Kentucky Lake's only 2.5 hours away.
Yeah.
And I really don't mind. I don't mind the drive to Kentucky Lake. It's not bad.
Yeah, but it's just fishing like crap. But
yeah,
it's nice to try to. I'd like to have a big lake so you could put a pattern together. Like a lot of these lakes around here, you find something going on, and then there's only a few places on the whole lake that are like it.
Yeah.
If you had 40,000 acre lake, you'd have multiple places like that. You could run around.
You even look at Lake of Egypt over there. If they're on the points, what points to go hit.
Right.
But the farther down that lake you get, or I guess the farther north you get on that lake, it changes quite a bit right there too. Which I guess it's the same, Kentucky Lake.
Yeah, Egypt's got at least Egypt's got those several creeks that you can run back.
You can. Yeah, I was gonna say you can get back in the channels there and do pretty good. Yes, we are live, Ron.
We're back, Ron.
Hank says I'll be on Lake Toho on Friday. Let you know how to do. Hank, I think that lake kicks your butt pretty good most of the time. So I hope you go back this time and kick its butt. Let's see. White Whale said back and better than ever. What's good, fellas? Man, we're just trying to get this live stream thing going here.
Trying to get the live stream. Threw us for a loop, man. It's been a while.
So how has everybody else been doing? That is the question.
We got Small Water back in here. Small Water Charters. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, Small Water Charters. That's why I moved to South Florida past 5 good lakes to get to a good lake. Yeah.
What's the water temps like down there in your neck of the woods? We got I was at Kincaid yesterday and it was 53. And I tell you what, I got over there. I've been kind of trying to work on my offshore suspended fish game. And that's what I was planning on doing. And I got over there and the lake was up about 1.5 feet, 2 foot. It really surprised me. I pulled up to launch and the water was way up the boat ramp. So apparently they got quite a bit of rain over there in the Carbondale area. And we just got kind of a light shower here and there and just kind of drizzle. That was it.
That was Saturday?
That was yesterday.
Yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday when I went over there. And the water was it was still pretty clear, but back in the no wake area, it had some pretty good stain. Probably 2 foot visibility, but that's been really clear back there the last couple months. So I was just surprised. I was expecting to see one thing and work on one thing, and it just kind of threw me for a loop.
Do you see this? Aaron, I just wish you guys would share your knowledge of these lakes. Hey, and I'm pretty sure we exploit probably more than anybody else out there.
I try to share as much as I can. For sure. I'm still learning too. I mean,
and Aaron, you can't say that you don't text me on a certain day or something and say, "Hey, what's going on right now? Where should I be?" And I think I've given you a pretty good shot every time.
Tom says, I don't think you can fish your usual fall patterns this year. 2020 is not normal. It's been different, Tom. It's
amen to that.
Not off the water, not only off the water, but on the water. It's been a little bit different.
Yeah.
It's been an
expensive year. We'll just say that.
Yeah. It's kind of been I was talking to my wife last night. It's kind of been like a calendar-esque year where the seasons have been longer. You know, I mean, the spring lasted for a long time. Summer was kind of mild, not too crazy. And now the fall seems to be lasting pretty good. Because, I mean, we still got pretty nice temperatures for almost the end of November.
I mean, it's been undoubtedly warm.
I see Luke back on there now. We see you now, Luke.
All right, we're going to try this again. Hopefully no echoes here. So cross your fingers, fellas. So how about now?
Tell me it's better.
Oh yeah, baby.
So much better.
All right.
Good, man.
So here's the deal with, I think the biggest thing has been laptops. Laptops have their speaker and the microphone so close together, but when you turn one or the other, and I don't remember, we had somebody on here that turned something down on their laptop and it worked, but I don't know what it was. But it reverbs that whole thing all the way back through there.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So it's much better.
Oh yeah, it sounds excellent, man.
Okay.
Really great. You guys out there in YouTube land sound good to you? Winter chicken dinner. We got that. Cool. Awesome. All right, man. So, have you always lived in Southern Illinois, or?
Well, I was actually born in Buffalo, New York, but my dad was from here, so I moved here at a very early age. I've been here probably 40 years, about 38 years.
Okay.
So pretty much my whole life.
So tell us a little bit about those deer behind you.
Oh, these?
Yeah.
You can see them all?
Some big boys there. Jeez.
Those are Illinois deer there, aren't they?
Yeah.
God.
That's the biggest right there. That one right there.
It's a freaking monster.
Wow.
Yeah.
Is that
that one right there? I shot this one. Oh, there it is, right here. I've got to get my computer. There we go. Right there. This one. Okay. The double drop tine. I shot him on opening day of bow season at 5 yards, and he scored 190.
Oh man.
Yeah, opening day.
Wow.
That's my biggest one. Probably won't ever top it, but yeah, I've got a good spot. It's not like I'm a great hunter. I got a good spot, and I've had it for several years. And it's just one of those things. I love to bow hunt or deer hunt in general. But bass fishing is my obsession. There's no question about that.
Mm-hmm. So do you fish all year long as much as you can?
Well, typically I start in late February, early March, and I like to get done by October so I can bow hunt because, when I fished the opens and when I was traveling so much, I would not get burnt out, but I just needed a break from it.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I would just regroup in the winter. And after I deer hunted, then I would sit in my boat and get everything ready for the next season. That's kind of how I still am. We had 2 tournaments in the fall, later tournaments, classics, and our classics are usually in the spring, and so that was much different fishing in the fall. I'll fish in the fall, but I'm not a wintertime fisherman. My buddies will get me out and I'll do it, but it's not one of those things that I enjoy. I'd rather just sit in a stand and just take it easy.
Yeah, I understand that, man. You do anything too much, you get burnt out on it, and you need a little bit of break.
Yeah.
Come out stronger the following year.
Yes.
I've been on break quite a bit this year.
Greg has had all kinds of problems. He's had boat problems. He's had house problems. It's been
ongoing. 2020 hates my guts.
Yeah, he's had a rough year. He hasn't had a lot of on the time water. But next year's going to be better for him.
Oh God, I hope. Well, I would say it could get worse, but I'm not even gonna. 2020 is not over yet.
So talk a little bit about Chickamauga. I know you guys just got back from Chick, and was that the USA Bass Championship you guys fished down there?
Yeah, we fished an English Choice Classic, and then we turned around and went back 3 weeks later and fished the USA Bass Classic.
Okay. So how many days did you fish? Did you pre-fish for the English Choice?
I think 4.5. I think it was 4.5 days, and about the same for that. Same for the USA Bass Classic. And it was tough both times. Actually, they were biting a little better in Angler's Choice than they were the USA.
Okay. So how do you approach? I mean, that's a big lake. What's your typical way you approach something like that when you're going to practice for a tournament?
Well, I have been to that lake before a couple times, but I had never been there in the fall, obviously. And it fishes kind of like Guntersville. I fish Guntersville in the fall a lot, but it's not exactly like Guntersville. So on a lake that I've never been to, say I was going to Smith Lake, I've been to Smith Lake in Alabama, and I needed 5-6 days of practice there. I just figure out, well, okay, obviously the time of year, and just kind of get a general idea. I don't do a lot of homework, a lot of social media stuff. I try to do it on my own, and it has become a lot harder to do it on your own. But I just try to, a couple people I would know, I'd call them, hey, what do I expect for fishing a lake like that? And then I just go out and try to figure it out on my own, or obviously in a team tournament, me and my partner figure it out.
So you're doing a lot of on the water homework, more or less.
Daylight to dark.
Yeah.
Daylight to dark.
So do you typically break the lake down into certain sections, or do you try to just?
Once I establish some sort of pattern, I try to do that pattern in a general area of the lake. I don't want to run 40 miles down south and do the same thing. I want to stay in a general area. A guy you may know of, Mark Menendez, great friend of mine. He told me that a long time ago. I first started fishing BASS with him. I started traveling with him. He told me it was time. And he gave me a lot of pointers and helped me out a lot. And that was one of the things. He said, don't run all over the lake. You find a pattern or find what they're biting on, and you find other areas in that vicinity that you can make a milk run. Just don't run up and down a lake randomly.
Yeah, and then it becomes, hopefully, if you're keyed in enough, dialed in enough, it's a timing thing where if you've got
Correct.
several of your places, you can time the fish and pull up at the right times.
Yes.
Yeah, that makes total sense. You don't want to be zipping around all over the lake. You're not catching fish while you're running the boat.
Right.
So
Kentucky Lake's a prime example. If I want to run south of Paris from Kentucky Dam, it's 45 minutes to an hour or longer, depending on how far I go down. I've got to commit down there. So I'm either going to practice, I'd split it up. If we had a classic or a big tournament on that lake, I would fish the upper end for 2 or 3 days and then fish the lower end for 2 or 3 days and establish which way I'm going. Because once you go down, it's pretty hard to just move around, running 40 to 60 miles.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's definitely a commitment one way or the other.
Yeah.
Especially if you got weather moving in.
Right.
It's not so much a commitment anymore. It's a
No.
suicide mission.
Yes. I've been there, done that.
That lake gets pretty rough.
Yeah.
So you fished how many seasons of the Opens did you fish?
Probably 6 or 7. I started fishing them in 2005, and then maybe then I fished them in 2007. It all depends on my work schedule. The last year I fished them was 16 or 17, but they came out with that 4 tournament schedule, and that's what hurt me. That's just way too much vacation time off for my job, plus my other classics and the other things that I do. Kids, wife, vacation, stuff like that. I mean, and that's.
You just need a better paying job with more days off.
That's correct. That's what I need. That's what I need. You find it, let me know.
Oh, I ain't telling nobody.
Yeah. We'll be working there before you. That's good. So what divisions did you fish in the Opens?
I always fish the Southerns because it always fit my schedule. I'm in construction. I work for the Department of Transportation, and during construction season, the height of our construction season is May through September. Well, the Southern Division would always start out in January, then they have one in April, and then they may have one in October or November. So that always fit my schedule just fine. So that we start in Florida, and I'd end up, Alabama or wherever.
Okay. That makes
so
sense.
that's why I chose to fish the Southern Opens.
Okay. So back to Chick a little bit. How was your practice there on that first championship?
Well, and this is what helped me down there, and obviously I didn't win either time, but what helped me is I fish in the fall at Gunnersville, like I said. So I keyed in on what I normally do in Gunnersville because they fish they kind of fish the same. But it was still tough. Now the bites we would get, we would shake off, or we may catch one and just keep bouncing around and finding exactly what I was keying in on is what I key in on Gunnersville, and that's what we did. But you wouldn't get a lot of bites. I had 8 spots during the Angler's Choice event. I was able to fish 4 of them, and at the USA Basin, I think we had 5 spots that thought I could catch fish at.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so when you're practicing, are you typically bending the hooks back on your hook baits, or how are you keeping those fish?
We were throwing a frog then.
Okay.
If you're throwing a crankbait or whatever, no, I don't ever do that. If I catch 1 or 2, I pretty much, like, if I'm throwing a crankbait and I start getting into them, I'll lay off of them really quick. But
yeah,
with a frog, you'd let them eat it. They'd swim underneath the mat, just shake your rod tip. Finally they'll spit it out.
Okay. So you basically had 5 mats or so, 4 or 5 mats that you were keying in on?
Yes.
Now, did you spend a lot of time in each one? Was it really slow? You had to keep making the same cast over and over, or
the problem with there is that the fish had been beat up. So there's been so many tournaments on that lake. B, the mats weren't the right mats. What I mean by that is you want that, and I hate even telling everybody this, but you want that cheese on that mat.
Mm-hmm.
And you want that slop. People will go, well, I'm seeing fish blow up in these grass mats and everything, and we can't get them to bite. I said, you're fishing a grass bed. You're not fishing a mat. Okay? There's a huge difference. If I can stick my hand underneath that water and pull away that mat, and it is completely clean or clear, there's no grass underneath, that's what I'm looking for. It's too hard for those fish to get through 6, 8, 12 inches of grass to get the frog. When it's completely decayed and rotted, it'll float to the surface, and the sun cooks it, creates that frothy cheese. You should see, we call them tracks. And if anybody tried to fish behind me, they'd be like, what in the heck? Because I will 6-inch those fish.
yeah.
Once I catch one, I'll 6-inch it and make a spider web all the way across. And unlike most people, I blow into the mat. People think they scare them. People fish the edge. No, not me. I'll blow all the way into the middle of that mat. If I see a blowhole or I see a fish bust in the middle of the mat, I will blow in there. I won't even put my trolling motor down. I'll blow right in the middle.
You're on the big motor and you just run up in there.
I run it.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah. There's they don't spook. They don't spook. You set it down, and after 5 minutes, you'll start catching them again if there's a bunch of fish in that mat. Now, unfortunately, at Chick, I think there was a lot of fish there, but what happened is all the rain and wind, it'll beat that froth off that mat. Okay, well, then it exposes. So I could actually see a little bit of grass underneath it. When that happens, those fish can key on your bait so much easier. So it's so much harder to get a bite. That's the problem.
They'll see it coming from a long way.
They're getting a better look at it.
Yeah. They are so keyed on shad and basically bluegill. They know what a frog. They're seeing that bait go by, and they're like, "That's not a bluegill."
Okay.
And they'll bump it. They'll bump it with their mouth closed. They'll nose it. They just come out of the water and bump it. They have their mouth closed. You'll watch them. That means they don't want it.
Yeah. So you're looking for those mats that are hollow underneath for the most part.
Completely hollow.
Okay.
And the deeper the mat, the better. That's what I typically wanted. The deeper the mat, the better. But it had to be hollow underneath. But a lot of the mats we fished end up not being, real frothy, and a lot of it was wind-blown grass on top, and you got a lot of bites, but they couldn't bust through that grass to eat it.
Yeah, I always say it's a lot to ask of a fish to bust through a mat like that and eat a frog and actually get it. Unless, like you said, unless it's hollow under there.
That's correct.
So did you look for a clean edge on a grass mat, or did that even matter?
No, not a clean edge, none of that. Like I said, if I see what I want to see, and I mean, and me and my partner talked about it. I said, when we go down there in these two tournaments, we're going to throw a frog. That's what we're going to do. We're not going to practice with any other thing. We're not going to do it. And that's me being stubborn, I guess. Me of years of fishing at Gunnersville and some of these big bass events and stuff like that, where I strictly throw a frog. Whether, and you can do whatever you want, but that's what I've learned to do down there, and I love it. I'm addicted to frog fishing, and that's what we did.
Mm-hmm. Well, it keeps you focused too. I mean, it keeps you from getting yourself spread out, trying to run too many patterns at one time. If you've got confidence in one bait and you know it's the right season, obviously it's fall, so the frog bites, it's either going on or it's on its way.
Right.
That does make sense to just put your head down and try to find areas that are conducive to getting bites on a frog. Because, a lot of times you go to a place and you got like 20 rods on the deck and you're trying to make each one of those things happen. And you sample so many things that you may not even figure anything out. You just ran down the bank and didn't even really focus much.
Now, did you punch through any of those mats down there?
No. In Angler's Choice, we did find some mats where I could get some bites punching. But most of the time, that's more of like an edge deal. Like where if you've got current running down the edge of a mat, especially if they're running current, I could catch them, the first foot in. But where I was fishing, I couldn't, and I'm in the middle of all of it. I couldn't get bit punching. Could not.
Mm-hmm. So you're basically in a mat and you're making precise casts all the way around the boat, basically?
Yeah, it looks like a spider web when we're done. And then we'll move up 50 feet. I hit the big motor, and what was funny is a lot of the anglers, when they watch BASS, they saw Lee Livesey, what he was doing, and they were talking about it on BASS. He's finding that cheese and stuff like that. I'm like, that's great. You're letting everybody know. So pretty soon, latter day of the practices, I started seeing people follow my trails that I'd made into these mats. Everybody's fishing the edge, and all of a sudden I got guys in front of me, going down a trail that I just made 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
But that's okay. That's just part of it.
They probably thought it was a 20-pound bass that got drug out of the mat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was down at Pickwick. We were down at Pickwick earlier this fall, and we saw some guys way out in the middle of a grass mat. And I was wondering, how in the heck did those guys get out there? They probably did the same thing you did. They just ran up in there and started fishing.
Yeah.
So when you're getting to those fish that haven't seen a frog, probably, are not as many frogs.
Right.
Yeah. I'll say Tom on here had a question for you too. He wanted to know what frogs do you find yourself going to the most?
I throw that KVD sexy frog, and the color that I throw 90% of the time is that green pumpkin. 90%. In fact, I got some right here, but I mean, that's what I throw. I mean, I don't get crazy with the colors. It looks like a bluegill. You can see it right there. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of bottom is on that? Is it an orange or yellow? Or
it's got a brown bottom, but the throat of it is orange, and sometimes I'll actually put a little bit more orange on there. And then another thing I do is I get some number 2 steel shot. I'll keep a pill bottle full of number 2 steel shot, and I'll put 3 or 4 in there.
Just
I keep
weighted down the back.
I keep the frog weighted, so he doesn't blow the frog out of the water, and they can hear it a little bit better if it gets a little windy.
Yeah, I do the same thing on a lot of my frogs. I think that makes a big difference. Having that weight that pushes that mat down a little bit. I think it gets noticed a little more, because that KVD frog's pretty light by itself.
Yeah.
Just like the Booyah, the Pad Crashers, and the Spros, like the Poppin' Spro frog, they're really light frogs. So you need a little bit of weight in there to push down on that mat. So I like that, man. I like that you keep it simple, because one thing I I said this several different times, is, the bottom of the frog is for the fish and the top of the frog is for the fisherman.
Oh, absolutely.
And really black, white, and some kind of orange or yellow, I think are all you need, but
Yeah.
you don't need to diversify too much. I like that brown color too, that KVD, I think it's called copper. It's like an all brown frog. I've had
Yes.
good days on that too, for whatever reason. I don't know why.
That's what my partner throws. He throws that copper one. I throw the green pumpkin one.
Mhm.
Looks like a dog turd floating around.
Yeah, they stuck it in. So then when you went back down for the USA Bassin tournament, were some of those same areas in play?
One of the areas was. The other areas pretty much got trashed out from the rain, so we had to relocate. Basically, what happened was that the lower end of the lake, the grass wasn't completely dead yet. Like I said, all these guys are saying, I'm looking at all these grass mats, watching bass blow up, and yeah, you can see them. If you can see them blow up all over the place, you can't get them to bite. That means you're fishing a grass bed because there's no mat. They can see your frog a mile away, and that's what a lot of these guys were doing. So, but it wasn't quite dead yet. So we eventually found some areas down south where the grass in that amount of time had died and, went to the surface and started matting up. And that's what we found 3 or 4 areas down there, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I've only been to Chick one time. I fished a BFL regional down there. It was a couple years ago, and I knew there was going to be grass down there, but I didn't know how much grass. I was completely thrown off because there's mats that are 200 yards from the bank. I mean,
right.
It just, and I understand why you have to run into them to get to, some uncharted territory. But yeah, the cheese was the deal down there too. I know what you're talking about. That bright green. I guess it's an algae of some sort, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically rotting. It's basically the grass just rotting and floating to the surface is all it is. It's disintegrating or whatever you want to call it. I mean, I'm not sure what the proper term is, but that's what I look for.
Okay.
And everybody says you look for them Rice Krispies, and basically what that is them little freshwater shrimp or bugs, and then there's bluegill underneath there eating that, and then obviously the bats are eating the bluegill.
Yep.
But that's not always the case. I mean, Chick really changed my view on a lot of stuff. I mean, we heard a lot of popping in a couple mats, and we couldn't get bit at all, and it was really weird.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's I agree on that. I always look for mats that are popping, but that doesn't mean you're going to catch fish.
Right.
Sometimes mats are, there may be bait in that mat, but it's just not doing the popping. The bait's just not active and actively feeding at the time. So It doesn't mean there's not any bass in there by any means.
Right.
Yeah. I've seen Aaron on here. He was asking about, you said it as a cheese and frothy looking. He's want to know if it's a mossy cover.
The hydrilla will turn more of a green and milfoil will turn more of a yellow. But you should see your line snap on it, and when you're moving that frog, it should open up, a half inch to an inch gap all the way across that mat. And like I said, once I get a blow up, and typically when you get a blow up or you catch a good fish out of it, then you go every foot or start out every 2 foot, because it's almost like you're offshore fishing in the grass. There's a school. Most of the time, there's a school of fish in that mat. Okay, and they're only in one section. We fished a Gunnersville tournament in the fall. Literally, a 30-foot long by 10-foot wide mat. We caught 27 keepers in 2 days out of it. Yeah. We fished the grass off of it. There was no more froth. There was nothing. We couldn't fish it after the end of day 2.
Wow.
But there was that many fish. There was more fish. Obviously, we missed some. There was more fish, but we caught 27 out of a little bitty mat.
That's
amazing. You could go all the way, either way, 50 foot, never have a bite.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And any idea why those fish are in that certain section?
I have no idea. I don't know. I don't know if it was a stump or a little bit of depression. It could have been a depression or a little bit of point. There was something for a reason. Now, granted, we have been back there several times and have yet to catch a fish. So I don't know why why that one year they were there, but they were there.
Maybe it's the bait school moving in there or something.
Yeah, it was something maybe with the way the grass grew that year. You know, Guntersville changes from year to year. Basically, it grows in the same spots, but maybe it was a different kind of grass at the time. You know, maybe the milfoil is gone, the hydrilla took over. I'm not sure.
It's hard to say. What kind of rod and reel? What kind of frog setup do you have? What's your go-to on that?
I use it's called a Tiger rods. They're custom rods. Scott Dobbins lives in Scottsboro, Alabama. He builds all my rods. In fact, Gerald Swindle's using some of the Tiger rods. And then I use a heavy duty luge and 65 to 80 pound braid. And it's the rod is a 7/8 extra heavy fast.
Okay.
So you got two options when you got two things happen when you're really, really mat fishing. You're either going to break your rod or you're going to get the fish in. There's no going into it with the trolling motor, you know, because it's so thick, you know, once you get in there. So that's the two options. So Scott built me a custom frog rod, and I just crank them out.
Yeah, you got to. I've been fishing with a little bit too light of a rod, and it's been fine. Of course, I'm not around here. We don't have quite as thick a mat,
right.
So it's been working okay. But then I was having some problems with fish grabbing. I fish a toad a lot and grab that toad, pull it down, and had too much tip, and they'd get me down, and it was it. They kept coming off. So I had to beef up my rod this year, and I think I'm where I need to be. It's it's a loose 7'6" heavy. It's like a Magnum grass rod or something, but it's got just a little bit of tip, because you don't really need a lot of tip. You're not making real accurate casts for the most part. You're just, I mean, if you can cast straight, it's going to go where you need it to. It's not like you're doing skipping and roll casting and stuff like that. But I think you need to err on the side of a strong rod versus a soft tip, because you're losing a lot of fish.
Yep.
Do you hit them really hard, or do you wait? I mean, do you wait for them, that frog to disappear, or do you just hammer?
It can be difficult, you know, as well as I do with top water fishing, especially when they explode on a frog. I try to wait until I can feel the fish, you know, after he goes down into the mat and I can feel the fish, and then I hammer him pretty hard, and then I immediately start cranking. And the big one I caught on day 2 of the U.S. Ambassador is 5 1/4, and I made 100-yard cast. It felt like, you know, of course it hit it, and I hit him hard, and I just drug grass, and I'm like, well, I'm going to either lose him, break my rod, or he's going to come off. And I just kept dragging him on top of that mat, and I finally got him to the boat.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. And the other thing that I do, and some people can disagree, but I do not use a dip net when I'm frog fishing. There you have more chances of knocking that fish off, because you can't see that fish. You know, you can't see that fish. All you see is a big wad of grass. So my partner will get down there. I'll either boat flip him, or we get down there and kind of peel the grass off and then grab the fish. But I do not, because I did it, you know, early on, and now we don't even use a net. In fact, we didn't even put one in the boat all 4 days of those 2 tournaments. Yeah.
Well, you know, the good thing about it being all covered up with that hydrilla or milfoil is it can't really move.
They can't shake.
Not too much, you know. They're pretty much, as long as you got a good hook set in them and you keep pressure on them, you usually can get them in.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Seen Cumberland Pros in the house.
All right.
What's up, Isaac? I got a couple questions here. Let's see. Whitewell said, what are your thoughts on weight size? I would think they're ready to fog.
He's talking about punching, I think.
Okay.
Light based on the mood.
I'll go as light as I can and still get into the mat. So if I can get in the mat using a 3/4, that's what I'm going to use. You know, if I don't have to use much effort to it. The thicker the mat, obviously the bigger. They're at, I think, Toho one year, I was punching with a 2-ounce weight, because it was so thick to get through it.
You kind of talk about those bigger weights like that. My thought always was if I have to struggle or shake my rod tip to get it through there, I'm burning time right there.
That's right.
Automatically, I'll go up a size to where it goes through there every single time.
Yes. Now with that setup, I use a rod with a lot of tip, and I never set the hook. I just lean on them, and I use a knot. I don't even know what it's called, but the hook actually pops up.
The Snell knot?
It's like a Snell knot. I'm not even sure. An old man down in Toho, an old guide, showed me how to tie it. But I just lean on them when they hit it, and it seems to work, because if you whack them real hard, that weight will punch their mouth open. That weight will open up their mouth, and you'll never get a hook in them.
Mm-hmm.
So I just lean on them, and it's got a real soft tip, and you just got to have a sharp hook. I use a Mustad flipping hook and straight shank 4 or 5 aught hook, and I just lean on them and catch 95% of them.
Yeah, that's what I try to do too. But God, sometimes
it's hard.
It's hard. I don't lose a lot of fish, but when you start going up to that 1.5 ounce and 2 ounce weight, that's a lot bigger weight, and you can really blow their mouth open. But,
right. That's why I went to a real soft. It's a real soft tip rod. So if I do happen to crank on them real hard, that rod will give.
Yeah. That's basically what I've got too. I got a 7-11. It's a Lewis, but it's their 10XD rod. So it's kind of it's a heavy cranking rod for the most part. It's still all graphite, but it's got that more parabolic action.
Right.
And it seems to be perfect for punching. I kind of Bradley Hallman won an elite event, not an elite event, but a tour event down there in Okeechobee, punching those big reed heads and all that stuff.
Yes.
And that's the rod that he was talking about, or basically a big rod with a parabolic bend.
Right.
So I went with that, and I'm completely happy with it. I think it's the way to go versus a broomstick.
Oh yeah.
So, because that braid, like you said, that braid has got no stretch. Like you say, you just have to pull into them. You just got to get that hook going. Once you get started, it's gonna keep working in.
That's right.
Got to get some cool air going in here. It's cooking in here.
Yeah, it is.
Dang.
So, are you 65-pound braid on the punching too?
Yeah, 65. And like I said, sometimes I'll use 80. Strike King's got a new braid out I really like, and I use Vicious braid also. I use both. Strike King line, the new line they came out with, the new braid, it seems to be really good, but it's either 65 or 80. I hardly ever throw anything less. Now, sometimes if I'm throwing a toad, like you said, like a buzz toad or something like that, I might go with 50 if I can get a little bit longer cast, a little bit easier to work with, but it's always 65 or 80.
Yeah. Before we get too much further here, Alex P had a question for us here. So for us, do you guys ever find the kind of schooling in the mats of Southern Illinois, like he's talking about in Florida? I mean, I would say that's pretty much a universal thing. You're going to have that just about everywhere.
Right. You're not going to have the 25 to 50 bass in a smaller mat, in Southern Illinois. You're going to find multiple fish in a mat, but I don't think you're going to find it like you do on those southern Tennessee reservoirs.
Yeah. You'll go down. I mean, typically what I find, like at Cedar or even Kincaid, is a lot of dead water, and then you'll catch 1 or 2 or 3 in about a 10 to 15 yard stretch probably, and then you'll have a lot of dead water. And then if you can figure out, let's say for instance, if that stretch where you caught those fish was on a secondary point, then maybe you can start running that sort of pattern. It doesn't always work. It might just be that that's where they were at in that cove and you found them. But
right.
I've never run into like 10 or 15 fish in a little small stretch like that. I'm not saying it can't happen, but I just don't think we have the amount of fish that some of these bigger water, bigger bodies of water have.
I think we got good quality.
Unless they're 17 3/4 inch fish and you eat them over. There's a lot of those. I mean, Peter's going to be phenomenal next year, I think, as far as having those smaller overs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been saying that for 10 years.
Great, man. You just blew my burst in my butt.
Sorry.
Welcome to 2020.
I guess when they turn 18 inches, they just get real smart. I don't know.
Yep.
Yeah. Jay had a question on here, but says there's Chickamauga flex the current as much as like Gunnersville or Pickwick.
Yes. Yeah. I noticed that quite a bit down there. And like I said, I couldn't get a real good punching bite, but by November, a lot of the grass was ripped out. gone, wind and current, because they had a bunch of rain. But the current does fluctuate there. Typically you want a good hard line, grass line, in 3 to 5 foot of water with that current ripping by it. But heck, most of it was gone by November, just because the rain that they had.
Mm-hmm.
And White wants to know if he can see that knot you were talking about.
I could probably tie it. It's pretty impressive. Let's see if I got some braided line here. I'm sure I do. Yeah, I do. I do have some braided line.
If not, you're gonna have some yellow yarn or some rope.
Okay, I got some braid. I got to find a hook here, but.
So have you always just tied a snell type knot for punching, or is there a reason that you went to do that?
When I first started BASS, obviously, I'm from Southern Illinois. I tie a Palomar knot, and they're like, "Oh, you got to punch." So I got to grab the lead weight, the biggest lead weight I had in my box, and a hook, and started punching and getting bites. And heck, I couldn't catch any fish. I was losing every one of them. Well, this old man down there, he was a guide at the time. He showed me how to tie this knot. So let me grab you a hook real quick. See if I can find a hook. I know I've got some. But anyways, he said, trust me, when you tie this knot, he said, you won't lose any fish. I said, okay.
So that was pre-tungsten, right?
No, that was when tungsten first started coming out. I had to go buy some tungsten. Obviously, I didn't even have any at the time. I'm like, yeah. I don't own a tungsten weight, So I had to go buy some 2-ounce weights.
They're $7, really? It's like,
yeah. Okay, let's see if I can do this.
I tell you what, while you're doing this, let me see if I can. I'm going to pull this away from the stream so I can blow your whole picture up so you're bigger.
Okay.
So bear with us, guys. I'm going to show you how to do this here.
All right. So my braid, I'm doubling my braid. I'm going to have about, we're just going to say 2 feet of tag. Now this is not the right hook, but so I'm going to take it through there. I pull it out about a foot. And then I'm going to make a loop. See that loop? And I'm holding the loop on the end of my hook. I'm just holding it with my thumb. Okay. Then I'm going to take this double. Here's the end of that I put through I'm going to take that and I'm going to go through the loop and around the hook 6 times. But for video purposes, we'll just do about 3. Oh. I know it's probably hard for everybody to see, but getting it. Okay, so say we did it 6. I just did it 3. And then I'm going to start pulling real slow. What it's doing, and I know it's hard to see, but basically when you pull all your tag ends and then you take your loop, pull it tight, pull each tag in, keep pulling it till it's tight. It's around the bottom of your hook. And it may be a snell knot. I'm not sure, but now I've got this big loop. I'm going to cut that off, cut my tag end off. And what happens is that knot or that weight does not hit your knot. So when I set the hook, though, that weight hits the top of the eye and the hook goes like this. Instead of if you had the weight on or the knot on top, it would pull the hook straight up. But when I set the hook, that weight pushes on the top of this, and it lifts like that, just like that. You guys tell me what kind of knot it is. It may be a Snell knot.
It's just like a Snell knot.
It's close.
It's you're kind of doubling it up, I guess, pretty much.
Maybe it's a double Snell knot. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
That's what it.
Yeah, the only difference I've seen with that is when you're doubling up and you're coming around. It's pretty much a Snell knot, but the Snell knot that I tie is usually above the hook keeper to where it can't slide back down the shank of the hook. But it's essentially the same thing. It goes right up to that eye. So your weight never hits your line or anything. It
correct.
pulls the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get that cam action that just it kicks out and grabs something in the fish's mouth. It's funny. I tie a San Diego jam knot for punching, and I don't know why. I haven't had any problems with it. And if I ever do start missing fish, then I'll go straight to the Snell knot like that. I've tied it before, and it's funny. When I first started punching, I did do the Snell knot, and then for some reason, I don't know if I just got lazy or what, I just started doing a jam knot, and I kind of just stayed with it. And then every once in a while, I'll tie the Snell knot again, and then I'll just go back and forth on it. But yeah, it is cool how it makes that hook just kick out like that. It makes sense,
Yeah. And like I said, it works for me, and maybe it's some sort of Snell knot, but he had showed me years ago, and that's how I still do it.
Yeah, it keeps a lot of wear and tear off that line up on top too.
Right.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, because there's a lot of guys that tie that knot right on top of their hook, and like I said, that weight, if you're punching true punching mats with like an ounce to a 2 ounce weight, that's a lot of weight smacking on that knot, and eventually it's going to give up.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So which one of your go-to baits for punching? Do you have some favorites?
I'll either punch like a DB crawl or a rage bug. That's the two I punch.
Yeah. Yeah, I like the beaver a lot. I fish a beaver a lot.
Well, yep.
Yeah,
similar profile.
I love the beaver.
Yeah.
But it seems like sometimes they'll want that real subtle action of a beaver, and then sometimes they'll want like a rage crawl or something that's got some flippers on it.
Right.
Kind of got to play around with those. Some days it doesn't matter at all, but there are times when it'll make a difference.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, if the mat is a little bit thinner, I'll go with more of a natural color. But if it's real thick and real dark underneath there, I'll stick with the black and blue.
Okay, that's a good rule of thumb. Real good rule of thumb.
Definitely.
Small Water Charter says in the grass here, I tell clients rod up and crank like heck. And
says they make more rods and reels. Makes sense. Yeah, if you're going to break anything.
Okay, gotcha. So I guess he's talking about when he's teaching his clients to punch grass. He just tells them to keep the rod up and just reel down. So it's a kind of a same thing as leaning in, but you're using the reel.
That's right. I mean, that makes perfect sense. They're not, reeling down to the fish and setting the hook like we would if we were offshore, throwing a jig or a big worm on a point, reeling down and really laying into them. But that's a good idea. Rod up and just start cranking. They'll hook up, especially if the hooks are sharp.
Right.
Yeah. Small Water Charter says duck it medium heavy. Will boat flip a gator. Done it. I don't think I'd be boat flipping any gators.
So do you think there are any lakes in southern Illinois that have any similarities to Chick or Gunnersville? I mean, I know obviously the current's out of the question, but as far as say you're back in a big bay or something.
The grass is different. It's weird. Like in southern Illinois, like some of the best frog fishing in Cedar or Kincaid is the end of May into the beginning of June.
Mm-hmm. That postponed period.
Mm-hmm.
And we get some sort of cheese mats, and then obviously the boats train wreck it, the pleasure boaters, which is fine, whatever. But it's, and those southern lakes like that, the grass continually grows, longer or more and mats up later in the year. When I go to Gunnersville in June, there's no grass mats. There's grass there and it may be topped out, but there's not a mat,
Yeah. Yeah, that amazes me over at Kincaid, especially. You go over there and well, I had some pretty good days punching over there, like the 2nd or 3rd of June 2 years ago. Nice luscious mats, and then I went back at the end. I went in the end of June. It was all gone.
Yeah.
It was all
Like I said, our frog fishing gets better in October and November, and punching does. But there's not near the grass then that there is down south. It goes away really quick.
Yeah, it's you're right. I think that post spawn frog deal is really, really good around here if you can get on it. And we didn't really have it much this year because I don't know exactly why, but I think there was a lot more boat traffic out than normal, even on a lake like, well, I know, but even on a lake like Cedar, those mats weren't there in May like they typically were. And that's something I always look forward to. So kind of missed out on that post spawn, frog deal this year.
2020, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. With COVID, the lakes were packed. Yeah, they were packed.
Yeah. Pain in the butt, for sure. Killed everybody.
So let's move on to, let's talk a little fall fishing real quick. I know you're in the woods a lot, but what are your you have some baits that you like to break out in the fall that you got some confidence in?
I like throwing a swim jig and a buzz bait.
Okay.
And so and that's what I like to throw up. That's one of my favorite baits is a swim jig in the fall. All year round really is a swim jig, but I really like a swim jig in the fall. Anything blown in a pocket with wind blowing into it, doesn't matter if it's wood, rock, grass, doesn't matter. I always try to find pockets with some wind blowing into it, and that's where I catch them.
You throwing a shad colored swim jig?
A shad colored swim jig, yep, with like a Strike King Z2 on the back of it.
Okay. Yeah, we both like swim jigs too. I've really gotten into those the last couple of years. They're just a fish catcher, man. They just catch.
Oh yeah.
They kind of
enjoy
up on fish and
Definitely an aggressive, like, I'll say that.
Yeah. So you're not a big square bill fisherman?
I do fish a square bill, but again, I don't fish in the fall that much. I have fished a couple of tournaments at Kincaid in the fall, and I will throw a square bill. It's just, I don't know. I guess I'm just hard headed. I'm so I'm setting my ways already, and that's what I'm going to throw. Now, I'll have my partner throw a square bill or something, but
yeah.
But we always try to throw something different. That's the thing with us is we always try, unless they're hammering exactly one bait, like a frog. Obviously, we're throwing a frog, but most of the time, like in the fall, I'll throw a swim jig. He'll throw a square bill or a top water or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's good. That's one of the important things about having a good team partner is that you guys are willing to try different stuff. And if something does become really, really obvious, then maybe you both go to it. Cause there's times when for some reason they want, say a 10-inch worm or something, they're just on that.
Right.
Even then one guy might Texas rig it, one guy might put it on a shaky head, but you're still getting that same profile, just a little bit different presentation. So,
and different depths. I think that's a big thing with fishing two people in a boat. Always try to fish different depths. That's a big difference. One guy's
make sure this is going to work.
One guy's out to about that 6 to 8 foot mark. Makes a big difference.
Can you still hear me? I just wanted to plug my phone and make sure it didn't die on you guys.
Yeah, we're still good, man.
Okay.
Still sound good. Hear you loud and clear.
All right.
You said you work for the road department?
I work for the Department of Transportation.
What's going on over there on 127? That they had that section that was washed out on the way to Cedar. They've been working on that.
That's an old slide underneath the road. There's water that goes down through those rocks way below the surface, and it's at an angle. Okay. And there was an old culvert there at one time, and basically it has collapsed, and we've done a couple fixes to it, and it doesn't work. And then we've got that temporary road there, but the fix that the designers came up with, and and all the people in Springfield, a lot of the bridge office people and all that stuff, they came up with a wall that they're basically putting piling in.
Okay.
And keying it into the rock with anchors, and basically it's going to hold the embankment and hold the road up. That's what they're working on. So it'll be done. I would say I'm not positive on that, May or June. It could be done earlier. I know they got the wall done, but there's a lot of work involved in that. It's like building a bridge. I mean, it just takes a long time.
Yeah, I was wondering if they were building a bridge because I saw all those pilings.
Right.
I didn't know exactly what was going on. I figured they were either building a heavy duty retaining wall or some sort of a bridge. So
yeah, it's a massive wall that nobody's ever going to see is what's going to happen.
Okay, so they're going to build the road right over the top of it for the most part?
Yeah, I mean, the road will be off to the side of it, but yeah, that wall is basically going to hold up the road. Okay.
Good deal. I just...
It's from all the boaters, that's what it is.
Yeah, that is a bad spot. I mean, that's like the road on the way to Cedar there, that little bitty creek that comes through there. That would, they put blacktop over that and asphalt, and it'd be good for a year or two, and then it'd wash out. And they finally got it figured out over there. It's been pretty solid now. So we got any more questions on here? I was going to ask you about.
Yeah, Alex P had one of them. How do you work your swim jig, and specifically what cover?
What cover?
Yeah.
How do you work your swim jig, and what cover do you look for, I guess?
I actually like lay downs in any type of wood. I'll swim it through the grass if there's submerged grass. I will swim it and I hop it. It's like a jerk pause, and sometimes I work it real erratically. I just don't reel it in. I'm constantly making that bait move, like a dying shad is what I'm making it look like. But yeah, I'm just working it real erratically, and then I'll let it fall for a half second, and then I'll just keep working it like that.
So you 1/4 ounce or 3/8 ounce?
Both. It depends on it depends on like how deep a submerged grass I'm fishing, or it also depends on the wind.
Mm-hmm.
If it's really blowing, I'll go to the heavier one.
Okay.
Because the lighter one it'll rise too fast on me, and and I want that down in the water column.
Gotcha. What else do you have over there?
Let's see.
You guys got to ask me a good question, so I have to lie that I won't know about.
I wasn't going to ask you about waypoint or anything like that. I'm surprised you let out your favorite frog color. That's impressive.
Yeah. A lot of people know about it. I mean, I got 100 of them in my boat. I don't even know why I grab any other color.
Well, you're going to see 100 more of them laying on top of the cheese mats over at Kincaid Lake here.
Oh yeah, I know.
Yeah, there's a lot of good frogs out there. I've been fishing that. Greg gave me one of the Ish Monroe Fat Matt Daddy frogs made by River to Seas. I like that thing. It's a big, heavy frog. It pushes down good, and it seems to get the bass's attention.
It's almost too big.
No, it ain't. It's not too big. It's about perfect. It's got some beefy hooks in it.
It's definitely beefy.
Yeah. So we talked about LiveScope a little bit the other night when I was talking to you. What's your thoughts on LiveScope? I know you've got to be behind the trolling motor with graph up front and stuff. What do you think about all that?
Unfortunately, and I say this unfortunately, it's almost like cheating. And what I mean by that, especially for the crappie fishermen, okay? Now these guys, you're taking and I'm not being mean when I say this, okay? You're taking a below average or average, just a weekend angler can now go out. It's a good thing, but you're going to catch the biggest crappie. Once you figure it out, you can bypass all these little crappie and catch the biggest crappie. They can't hide. And especially a younger person that really knows how to read electronics, grew up in that kind of era, unlike me, I'm more old school. They can pick it up pretty quick. With bass, the bass guys have started taking hold of it, and you got to do some different things. And it's changing the game, unfortunately. But things change, and you got to adapt to it.
Well, when they first got side scan, I wouldn't even side scan over some of my best spots on Kincaid Lake because I did not want to know what was there. I purposely would not do it because I'm like, these are my spots. I don't care what's there. I'm still going to fish them, you know. So it took me a while to even get to that level to start side scanning. And now, we do it all the time. And now with this LiveScope, with bass, it's different. You're still going to have to work at it, especially around here. There's going to be certain situations, schooling fish out in the middle and stuff like that, that you can go chase them and take long casts. But these northern lakes, like with the smallmouth where they've got really no cover, they're just a schooling fish. They're in packs and they're on rocks. You can see them all. There's no hiding anymore. There is literally no hiding. I've got friends who on Kincaid Lake that can go out there and target giant crappie. I mean, I'll go out there with them and we will not even. I'm like, well, I see 7 or 8 on that tree. Those aren't big enough. So they're targeting the biggest crappie out there.
Huh.
Yeah, it's truly amazing. My opinion, get rid of it, especially at the elite level. Give them sonar and GPS and let them go. We'll see who the best fisherman is. The best fisherman, the guy with the instinct, like a Rick Clunt and stuff like that. That's what I like seeing.
Yeah, not the one guy that's going to get lucky enough to figure out where that one 10 or 12 pounder is hanging out.
Right.
Just pick him off all day long, until he finally gets a bit.
And again, I'm not discrediting it. These guys have learned it to their advantage. The guy that won the BSS, can't think of his name. You said it, Gabe. I can't remember his name.
That's Patrick Walters.
Jacob Wheeler. These guys are studs on that. They are really, really good on their electronics. But that's an advantage right now. In the next year or two, everybody will know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just another tool. You can fight it as long as you want. I don't think it's going to be a major dominant player here in Southern Illinois. But it will be a player during some events for sure. But if you want to go outside of the state, and really try to compete on some lakes, you're going to have to learn how to use it. And it's not just, I'm going to go out for a day or two and figure it out. It takes a long time to learn. I'm nowhere near good at it as my fishing partner is, but he's a crappie fisherman too. So, and he got better at it throughout the year. He kind of figured it out, when we needed a fish, he might go chase a fish. I'll have to sit in the back of the boat, throw out in the middle of the lake for nothing. So if you see us on Cedar and we're out in the middle, you know what's happening. I'm probably sitting down, eating snacks, and he's chasing a bass that he thinks is 18 inches and ends up being 17.75. That's what happens.
Hey, I know that bass.
But he was fat, though.
That's good.
Alex P's got a good question on here. I'll put it up on the screen there for you to see.
Can you see that?
If there's one.
So is there a secret bait that works in Southern Illinois that no one else is throwing?
A secret bait.
You said you wanted a question to put you on the spot.
I'll say I'm not going to say it's a secret bait, but I would say a bait that probably works better than most of them out there that's just tried and true, and we were just talking about the swim jig.
That is true.
Grass place around here, even if you got rock, lay down, cover, anything like that, that swim jig just
there's actually a couple baits and people don't throw them near enough, and I don't throw them near enough. And I'll tell you what, one bait that will dominate on some of these lakes, and I this year I started tying one on. I actually caught some fish on. Is a fluke.
Mm-hmm.
We don't throw a fluke.
No, used to. I used to throw a fluke all the time. I've been thinking about that.
I remember when the Sluggo came out.
Yeah.
And I mean, oh my gosh, we caught the crap out of them, and now that we don't throw that enough. Another bait, a secret bait. You want to know a secret bait? You can look them up on the internet. Find a pommy.
A pommy.
Yeah,
Okay, that's a new one.
it's an old one, but
It's an old
How
one.
the hell do you spell that?
Greg's looking it up right now.
yeah.
Yeah, that fluke, man. I don't know why I don't throw that anymore, especially this time of year. I just got
Right.
away from it. It's the jerk bait really starts to play, and
Right.
why wouldn't you throw that? I mean, geez.
No, and very few people throw it. Very few people throw it.
Yeah, I guess it's I don't know. There's a lot of baits that I used to throw and I've gotten away from them. I think, one thing about the fishing industry is they're really, really good at promoting the next new thing and the next new technique, and you get kind of sidetracked. You start going this way a little bit, and you forget about the stuff that was working. It's kind of like a tree branch. It's got little limbs and forks on it, and you get going down one little limb, and you totally forget about what was at the beginning of that limb. And like a tube, I don't throw a tube as much as I used to.
I still throw a tube. That's
awesome.
one of my baits.
Yeah, tubes are. I'll get into them for a little bit, and then I'll get away from them for a little bit. Right. But man, they work. They catch fish.
A buzz bait. I mean, I've got. He fishes with my uncle. Taught me a lot over the years. He's been fishing tournaments for 40 plus years, probably 50 years. He throws a buzz bait. He'll have a black buzz bait tied on from March through October, and he catches big fish on it. Everybody thinks, you got to throw a buzz bait in the morning or something. He'll throw it during the middle of the day. And most people don't do that. We get conditioned where we think, okay, top waters are only for in the morning or for late in the evening. The river system, the Ohio River, Tennessee River, the actual river part, I'm not talking lakes, but I'd throw a popar in the middle of the day in the summertime. And they would crush it in the summertime. Hot, sunny, throwing a popar. People don't do that kind of things. I mean, it's just one of those things that I learned that I could catch them on it and they'd crush it.
Are you keying on shade or some kind of current break?
No.
Really?
No. Keying on current breaks, current related stuff, and just throwing a popar.
Yeah. I know that chug bug used to be big over there.
Yeah. Chug
Similar
bug.
to a popar, just a little bit bigger.
I actually weighed in. This is crazy. The same guy that taught me that knot told me to get a tiny torpedo. I'd catch my limit on so I forget which day it was of competition years ago, but I tied on a tiny torpedo and I caught a limit of bass in Toho on a tiny torpedo. Hadn't thrown one since I was a kid. I had one in my box and it was an old rusty one. I had to redo the hooks on. Tiny torpedo. That would probably work around here.
Yeah.
My youngest son still throws that at our pond here.
Right.
Love that thing.
There's a guy in my club who that's his go-to topwater is the torpedo. I don't know if it's the tiny one, but they're pretty. Even the standard size one is pretty small.
I think it's only about 2 inches.
Yeah.
If that.
But he catches fish on it.
Oh, so, yeah.
Just kind of overlooked.
Had the old bass colored and then the black, the loon colors.
Yeah.
I guess that's what it was. I don't know.
So back to the LiveScope real quick. I've been thinking about getting one. I don't have the money, so I'm just thinking about it. But when you make a cast, say you're fishing a swim bait or something, so you make that cast out there, and you can see that bait coming back towards the boat and see the relationship of the bait to the bass. So what was it real common that the fish will just let it go by, or do they ever move out of the way, or what's some of the things you've seen the fish do when the bait's coming to them?
If they don't eat it on the initial, right when you get it right past them, they follow the bait. They do it more times than not. In fact, just by watching it, I cannot believe the amount of fish that you will pull off a point or off a bank that will follow that bait all the way to your boat and never bite. Pull schools off your boat, off a point, and then they'll sit underneath the boat. It is absolutely amazing. And I never knew that before. You know, obviously we didn't have that technology, so we had no idea how many fish literally follow your bait. It's amazing to watch. So that's one thing. And I was talking to you earlier when you were asking me about it. They will go and sit underneath your boat. You'll have to literally turn on the big engine and drive off the point that you're fishing and let the fish go back in and regroup off the point. Those fish will swim underneath your boat, and you can just see them there.
And they won't bite. They won't bite, huh?
They will not bite. Oh, no. But they follow it more times than not. That's the hardest part, is you can watch them follow it. Unlike a crappie, where a crappie is more stationary. Now, some of these guys, they'll chase these lone single crappie, big crappie, but like on a we'll say a stick up or some standing timber. If you see them there, you drop your jig down right on it. That crappie just doesn't move. Sometimes they'll spook. You're just moving that jig or right above their face. I mean, obviously there's times that when they don't bite, but for the most part they will. But a bass moves too much. The bass is totally opposite of a crappie. That's why these guys are getting better with turning their distance way out. Instead of 20 or 30 feet that they use for a crappie, they're doing 60 and 70 feet and still being able to see them. They're fine tuning their gear. Mm-hmm. But it's not like, oh my gosh, if we got LiveScope, now I'm going to win every tournament, because guess what? Everybody else is going to get LiveScope. And you're going to, the problem I see with that is you can get too caught up in it. You forget to actually fish.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that.
You're looking at that screen so much, you don't realize what the heck you're doing. You're shying away from whatever pattern you're doing, because you're constantly staring at that screen, and pretty soon you've lost a half an hour fishing because you're chasing a bass, or he's following it. He's following it. Well, you know what? They can follow it all they want. I want him to bite. If he's not going to bite, let's move on to the next.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah, I can totally see that. That'd be easy to get distracted doing that. I think it'd be cool to see, kind of like what you just mentioned, how fish react to different baits. Like if you had a school and they were locked on to, say, a piece of standing timber or something where they weren't gonna move away from it as much. They were kind of wanting to stay towards that cover, but
right.
Being able to throw different baits through it and see if you could notice a different reaction from the fish.
Oh yeah, most definitely you can. You'll throw like a worm or something on a school of fish or a single fish, and he'll follow it all the way down to the bottom and then stare at it. You just stare at it. And you're like, are you kidding me? And sometimes you get them to bite, and sometimes you don't.
That drives me nuts.
Oh, that's why I'm telling you, you can get so caught up in it, you forget what you're actually doing. You know what I mean? You go, okay, I was fishing this point, or I was fishing this grass line, now I'm watching fish out from the grass line, and now I'm chasing these fish and watching what these are doing, and pretty soon we're off the grass line, and, we're doing something totally different. And so, but again, guys in the years coming will get much better at it, but it's not it is the next coolest thing, I guess. But just to me, as being, I've fished tournaments since I was 15. To me, I guess I'm just old school. I like the guys like the Denny Browers who could make a jig work and no matter what, and beat everybody. The Rick Cluns and those type of guys, the Shaw Grigsbys and Mark Menendez, all them guys right there who are more old school, who once they were on them, they're going to beat your butt, because they had it in their head. They outsmarted everybody. They figured it out. Now I'm going to find a school of fish on my electronics and I'm going to cast for them and catch them. So that's the part that I struggle with. But I'm also not going to not do it if I'm going to get my butt kicked every weekend.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
That's the problem.
Yep, I totally understand that. You gotta use all the tools that are available if it's
right.
playing field out. Unfortunately, yeah. you know, back to watching those fish or how they respond to lures. So many times where you're side scanning something and you find a group of bass and you put a waypoint on them, and they may wander a little bit. But if they're locked in over, say, there's a brush pile and they're sitting, say the brush pile's in 20 feet, and brush pile's coming up like 3 or 4 feet off the bottom, and those fish are just sitting a couple feet above that brush pile. You know they're pretty much locked in on that piece of cover, and you drop a waypoint on it. You may go up the bank just a little bit and come back out and throw on it. You know, they won't bite something that's on the bottom. Then maybe you throw a jerk bait or slow roller spinner bait or a swim bait or something. You know that bait is coming past those fish. You're counting it down. You know it's coming past them, but they won't bite it. And to be able to see that same thing on LiveScope real time, you know, would just almost drive you nuts. You know,
Yeah,
it's like,
it can drive you nuts. Trust me.
yeah, but it verifies what you've been thinking, you know, prior to having the LiveScope.
Right.
Because you're visualizing that lure coming right through them, but you can't see it. And then with LiveScope, you can actually see that it is happening. So
Right.
I think I'd lose my mind.
yeah, it might make you mad. I mean,
It'll make you crazy. It makes my partner crazy for sure.
I live with something that makes me crazy. I don't need any help.
right.
Hope she's sleeping.
Tom's got a question. Do you guys throw the buzz bait? Let's see. What's it say? Did the guys that threw that buzz bait used to fish the Redman tournaments years ago? I think maybe he's talking about your uncle if you fished Redman tournament.
Yes, he did.
Okay.
My uncle Paul used to fish Redman.
Yep.
Okay.
And somebody else wants to know if that's your uncle is in Chester.
Yes, that's my uncle. It's Paul from Chester. He's
Okay.
the one that got me into He's the one that got me into tournament fishing. And his son and me are the same age. We went to high school together, and we started fishing tournaments together.
Okay. Yeah, I know that buzz bait was. I don't know. I don't fish a buzz. You know, the reason I don't fish a buzz bait is a lot is because I'm fishing around grass a little more, and when you put that, you can put a toad on there, and that buzz bait does pretty good in grass, but there's you can't throw all the lures at one time, so that's good, and that keeps some lures working better than other lures. If everybody threw the exact same thing all the time, you know, nobody catches anything. There's so many things out there, and people have confidence in different things that it kind of evens the playing field out a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, guys, if you got any more questions for Luke, get them in here because Greg is going to have to get off here. He's got a water main that he's been dealing with. He had a water main break outside his house yesterday.
Friday.
Friday? Oh, it's been that
Friday
long?
morning.
Holy crap.
Yeah, I just happened to go down in my basement, or my bathroom downstairs. The entire thing was in water. The other side of the house was in water.
Oh God, I didn't know it was that bad.
Oh yeah, it's welcome to 2020.
Yeah,
it's kicking right in.
So he has to anytime he wants. It's shut off outside the main line, right?
Yeah,
and you got to go outside, and turn it on to take a shower and do dishes, and then let the basement flood, and then turn it back off. So craziness. Yeah, so Luke, I guess we'll get out of here, man. I really appreciate you coming on here and spending some time with us. It's good to talk to you. I've seen you here and there, you know, out on the tournament circuit there, but you know how it is. You don't really get a lot of time to talk. So
yeah. I think we need to get set up. Maybe have him on, have Mike Marfell on, maybe Ron. Do a 4. We'll do a closed group. They can comment over there, but we'll kind of stay away from the comments and just kind of let everybody watch and
hash it out.
Maybe we'll just pick a question every now and then from it just to ask.
We got lots of options.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I enjoy it. You know, I do this stuff for Anglers Channel every once in a while. My old boss from Strike King, Chris Brown, he runs Anglers Channel, and we do this every once in a while, and he's gracious enough to let me be on Strike King or be on the Anglers Channel, you know, with all the other pros. So that's pretty cool. And I enjoy doing stuff like this. I don't mind answering questions, and I'm going to be brutally honest, you know. There's no reason to lie about it, you know. That's just how it is. And,
yep.
And I enjoy stuff and hope I help some people. That's for sure. You know,
yeah.
I like helping people catch more fish.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. We appreciate it. It's fun to share stuff, because we all been doing this for a while, and it's
Especially in the wintertime.
It is nice to have if somebody comes up to you and say, "Hey, I heard you talking about such and such plastic worm, and I tied one on the other day, and I caught some fish, and I had a great day, and it was fun." So why not help people out like that? So, all right, man, we're gonna get off here, Luke, and once again appreciate it, and hopefully I'll see you out in the water. Good luck out in the woods, man. I hope you add another head to the wall back there.
I hope so too.
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you later, man.
Okay. See you guys.
All right.
Bye.
Good stuff, man. That guy's got a lot of knowledge. We could probably sit down here for hours and pick his brain. So he's one of those guys that when he's in a tournament, he's somebody that can very easily win any place, anytime. Been fishing against him for a couple of years. They're in the same tournaments. I'm fishing against the fish, right?
Yeah.
So we got any other questions to tidy up before we let go? Yeah, appreciate you guys sticking with us through that little debacle there at the beginning. It happens from time to time.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, Hellabass. We talked a lot about Chickamauga, Chick and Gunnersville, frogs. I know you're a big frog guy, punching.
I'm sure you'd like to hear about Chickamauga. He was just down there.
He was at Pick.
Or
He was at
Pickwick. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. He's had some pretty good live streams lately.
Yeah.
You get a chance to check them out. Pretty good stuff. Frog and Dirty.
Here you go.
All right, man. We're gonna let you go. Greg's
And
Greg's got stuff to do.
Yep. Everybody have a good Thanksgiving. So we'll see everybody.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
We'll see everybody next Monday at 7:30. So see ya.
Peace.